It's the Daily Dispatch, in discussion with Darren Mann.
Lead story from the front page of the Daily Dispatch for today, Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. Taxi owner gunned down in front of his children. Gunmen shoot father of two while he was doing a school run. Also from the front page of today's Dispatch, Rhodes wins first battle against anti-vaxxers. For details on these and other stories, go to dispatchlive.co.za. More now from that Dispatch front page story today. Rhodes wins first battle against anti-vaxxers. Rhodes University will proceed with its COVID-19 mandatory vaccine requirements for all staff, students and visitors to its campus. This after an urgent High Court application to interdict its implementation was struck off the court roll. Bringing that application, a group known as Makanda Against Mandates. And joining us from MAM, I believe that's the acronym, is philosophy lecturer at Rhodes, Francis Williamson. Francis, a very good morning. Thanks for joining us. I would imagine a little disappointment for you and the MAM group with the judge ruling against you, apparently because your interdict wasn't regarded as being urgent enough.
Good morning, Darren. Yes, indeed. It is, of course, a bit disappointing. We had our day in court and we looked forward to that. We thought we had a good case. It turned out not to be so. So, yes, we lost and that is disappointing.
Is this the end of the road or not? Do you continue?
Well, we always knew that there is going to be a part B of this, a review process, which will be in some ways the main part of the process. The urgency was an initial thing. Quite frankly, my own view is we did not expect to lose that as drastically as we have. But the main part is the review part, and that will happen in due course. We do not yet know whether we will indeed proceed with that. It was always the plan. But, basically, our pockets are not deep. So that is something that we are going to have to take, under discussion, and also liaise with other groups throughout the country who are mounting actions and so forth. And there might well be a better opportunity to centralize and coordinate our efforts. And there's a little bit of history to that as well.
MAM consists of who exactly? Who makes up the group, Makanda Against Mandates?
Well, it's a non-profit organization which has a committee which manages it, and there are all the main applicants who were joined in the court action yesterday are the members of that committee. Then there are a whole bunch of other ordinary members and so on. Not many. I'm not sure whether you were looking for actual names and so on.
No, I'm just trying to get an idea of where the group is drawn from. Are you students? Are you parents? Are you just members of civil society?
I see what you're saying. It's predominantly people who are directly affected and harmed, in our view, of course, by the vaccine mandate at Rhodes. So it is members of staff, students, members of the Makanda business community, service providers to the university, who are directly harmed by the vaccine mandate.
Mr. Williamson, in addition to having the court rule against you, the judge also ordered that MAM pay the costs of the application. That's going to hurt.
It does. It certainly does hurt, but it's only the costs of that part of the application pertaining to basically to urgency. So it's not not the whole costs of the whole thing. That has to wait for the review process if it were to happen. So it's a smaller cost order than one might otherwise think. Still hurts enormously, but it's not the disaster that one might have thought.
You personally, you're a lecturer at Rhodes. Has this caused any tension at all in terms of the day-to-day work that you do, or is everything amicable?
I was the head of the Department of Philosophy for 3 years. My term of office came to an end on the 31st of December 2021. And I had been, with my colleagues in the philosophy department, had managed to be able to warn them that, look, this thing is probably going to come our way. And it might well be that my capacity to teach, to be on campus, given that the university is going for face-to-face contact teaching this year, might be impacted. And so we will have to negotiate that when it happens. And my colleagues have been, in my opinion, hugely supportive and understanding. Do not agree with me about the stand I'm taking, but supportive and so on. So from that point of view, no conflict, it's all amicable and so on. However, it does have ramifications for my capacity to be on campus and to conduct, face-to-face teaching. We might have to shift things around. It might mean that some of my colleagues have to take on additional duties in the short term, or maybe even in the long term. So, of course, there are frictions and problems, and it does impact on them. But by and large, or indeed, I would say almost entirely, they are positive and supportive, and as good colleagues would do, are willing to take that knock on the chin.
Reaction from students, has there been any?
I think that we've got a lot of student support. Our main sort of Facebook group or Facebook membership, and these are not official members of MAM, but it's a sizable group of people, hugely supportive of us. Obviously, everybody is bitterly disappointed with the decision because it directly impacts on students right now. It means that there are students who cannot finish their degrees this year. That is the direct thing, and that was part of the basis for the urgency. So, yes, there is bitter disappointment for a good many students. And, of course, students nationally who have been watching this space as they gear up to fight their own universities and the exclusions that are happening on this ground of vaccination.
In terms of, let's call it a wish list going forward, in the ideal world, how would this turn out? What are you hoping for and looking for?
Well, my hope would be that we can begin to recognize the real science, which tells us that 99.7% of people will readily survive COVID, and that the pandemic is not nearly the dreaded beast that we had supposed it to be, and that we had better get to live with it and deal with it in a way which does not disrupt our society completely. And that will mean being able to go onto campus, to lecture. We can respect the non-pharmaceutical protocols and interventions, and things can go back to normal, respecting the freedoms, respecting the rights, and just getting back to normal life. That would be, that's the main objective.
I would just, as a last question, want to ask you about science. You mentioned that in your answer. And a lot of people like myself, man in the street, we don't have a scientific background or a medical or pharmaceutical background. You hear the science supports vaccinations. Then someone with an opposing view comes out and says the science doesn't support vaccinations. Is it a case of scientists worldwide just disagreeing and folk in either camp just cherry-picking arguments? Or how else can it be looked at?
Yeah, look, it's absolutely true that science supports vaccinations. Vaccinations are a wonderful thing, and when they are indicated, they should be taken. No doubt about that. There's nobody in MAM that I am aware of who is an anti-vaxxer. Everybody believes that vaccines are a good thing. But that has got, how does that translate into forcing a vaccine on everybody or coercing everybody into taking a vaccine? The argument is that the vaccine is the only way to deal with this pandemic. And quite frankly, that is just scientifically untrue. The vaccines may be wonderful. And I think that for certain groups of people, they probably are, particularly those who are in the vulnerable or at-risk categories, the very elderly and the immunocompromised. And those are the people who have been, where we see the highest death rate in the whole pandemic saga. So there is no sentiment here that sort of anti-vaccine sentiment, and we ought to respect the science. But I think that the science has moved on from those early months of 2020. And we now see that we can cope with this disease quite well without forcing a vaccine on everybody. And again, you are right to suggest that it might well be that the scientific community is divided about this. I think that there is a huge group of scientists. In fact, I think that probably the most recognizable names in epidemiology in the world, like Dr. J. Bhattacharya from Stanford, is he? I can't remember. A whole variety of people. These are the people who put forward the so-called Great Barrington Declaration, are utterly opposed to vaccine mandates, and they believe that we will achieve herd immunity by allowing the virus to just spread throughout the community, as it largely has done, but taking concerted efforts to protect the elderly and the immunocompromised and those at risk. That's where our efforts should be focused on, not in dragooning the entire world into taking a vaccine. So I think that is a scientifically more respectable option, but we must accept that there are scientific differences of opinion about this. I think that on almost a daily basis, the case against vaccine mandates, the case in favor of alternate therapies and early treatments is gaining more and more scientific ground.
We will leave it there. Thank you very much, Francis Williamson. He's from Makanda Against Mandates. Appreciate you joining us on the Daily Dispatch in Discussion today. Have a good day.
Thank you, Darren.
That was the Daily Dispatch in Discussion with Darren Mann.